Most creators think they have a content problem. They don't. They have a system problem. They're creating 15 pieces from scratch when they could be creating one and extracting 7. 6 months ago, I was one of them. Now one idea fuels multiple platforms. But first, let me show you the trap, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here's an illustration of the content hamster wheel. Here is how it flows and how I used to do it myself. You had one content idea, you write it from scratch because you have no system, and then you just post and you just keep repeating this. And if you're lucky, you can batch a few for ahead of time. But if you're not, you're eventually running out if you get sick or if you just don't feel like posting. That's a problem because you can wear out easily. It gets repetitive. You don't have time to do other things, and it sucks. And it feels like posting anything beyond a single platform is just unscalable. And I'm still learning myself. It's better time spent focusing on quality ideas and then pushing that out, amplifying them to other platforms, versus trying to grab one idea and then spending all your energy trying to just post it on every platform, because odds are it's not going to work. What works on YouTube is not going to work on Instagram. What works on LinkedIn is not going to work on X. So this was me. Eventually I would burn out, right? You take one idea, you would post it on X, take another idea, post it on YouTube, and every single day I'll come up with new ideas, right? Sometimes I would come off on the fly. Sometimes I would batch ideas ahead of time, but I had to execute every single day, and it was tiring. I knew I needed a system, and I also knew that I was working harder. And after going back and forth, I realized that I can grab that single idea and just try to package it according to the platform. I didn't have to do extra work. I can let AI repackage that for me. It's not perfect, but I am seeing some positive results. So instead of going in this hamster wheel, you can grab a single idea, you can post it on X, and you can post it on YouTube. Now, this is not revolutionary. If you follow people like Gary Vee, they're big on that. You take that single idea and you package it into other platforms. You can create a short form and they can become a TikTok reel, but they all start from one idea, right? Post it on YouTube. You could create a thread on it. You could chop that up, that long form, into short form, or you can create short form just from that single idea from scratch, which is what I do now. And you could also transcribe that and convert it into a blog post. Now, how you go about this, that's definitely your personal preference, but now with AI, you can scale it a lot easier than before. I generate one idea, that becomes a short form video. I then chop it up for YouTube, for TikTok, for Instagram, for LinkedIn, and for X. Now, I'm finding that it's not as straightforward for me personally that I can just take that one idea. I tend to just convert them for LinkedIn, but for X, for me, it's been a miss. So I still have to figure out how to work that platform. It's not just amplifying. It sounds, in theory, it sounds simple, but you have to understand each platform. What I'm testing is I take the same video, I post it on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, but I do change the captions. Each one has a unique description, and I try to tailor it to each platform. So it's not like me just posting the same video. In the future, I do want to test different hooks. I just don't have the capacity to create videos for all three. I just share the same video. So I do understand that I'm taking an L in many ways, because sometimes a video that works well on TikTok is not going to work well on Instagram or YouTube, and then vice versa. A video that gets maybe 1,000 views or a couple thousand views on YouTube maybe gets a couple hundred on TikTok, right? So it ebbs and flow. I'm figuring out how each platform works, and eventually I figure out how to refine that system. But the point is, I'd rather have 1,000 views in TikTok and 8,000 views in YouTube for that single video than having 0 and just having 8,000 in one single platform. Okay, so you have this basic chart here that AI generated, but how do you go actually about doing this without content becoming your full-time job? That's when n8n comes into play. Now, if you don't have n8n, you can sign up on n8n.io. I'm not affiliated with it. They have a 14-day free trial. You can also self-host, but if you've never used n8n, I strongly encourage you to just try the 14-day trial first. It's going to be more painful, even though it's sort of easy to do it. There's little quirks you have to watch out for if you self-host. And I recommend just starting here. That's what I did. Pay the $24 for a few months if you do end up liking it, because the ROI is just going to be there anyways. So here's my content workflow. This is the one that I've been refining over time. For example, in the past, it would generate YouTube scripts, and then from the YouTube scripts, it would repurpose it for X. It would generate the captions for Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and then a LinkedIn post. Now my workflow is a little bit different. I like to change my scripts and have more control. Let's just say I was generating a long form script. I would work with Claude Code. Here's my script agent, and this is actually helping me generate a script like this. It drops it in the folder here, and I just review it. Once I'm happy with it, I add it to Notion. In this case, once I dump the script here and change the status to context ready, this workflow gets triggered. It checks the status. If it matches, grabs a script. Once it grabs a script, this is when the repurposing happens. It'll kick off either the Instagram, TikTok, or the X, whichever one, and it grabs the scripts as context. So as you can see here, I have a content style, content angle. It looks at different things here. And here it takes a script, it takes a hook template, and a body template. Now, what does that mean? So for example, for X, what I did is I tried to understand X posts that did well from writers that I like, and I created a bank of like maybe 10 to 15 templates. So I would take the hooks, template them. I'll take the body, template it. And what happens is every single time it runs, this agent queries the Airtable where I have separate tables for the hooks and the body templates. And then this logic says, hey, choose one depending on the type of topic we're talking about. Let's say I was sharing a news, it's going to choose a different template. Let's say I was talking about a tutorial, it's going to choose the right template. And then basically it ends up choosing the right type of templates and then feeds that to the agent over here. It generates the post in my voice, spits it out, and then eventually these other agents run. Again, doing something similar minus this one. This one is just generating descriptions for Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So it's kind of straightforward. So it just needs a script and it gets to work. Then the LinkedIn agent does something very similar to X. Once everything is done running, we just combine all that information into a single input and organize it so that we can output it to Notion. So you get something like this. You see the TikTok caption, Instagram caption, you see the tweet and the LinkedIn post and the description. To power this, I try to keep it simple. I use Opus for the main ones like Instagram and X. I use GPT-5 for the captions because it's kind of straightforward. Right here is just a check that if I get an error, I get an email. It's just handy. Now, that was a speed run, but let me just dive a little bit deeper in some of these nodes. For example, the Notion trigger, right? This is just saying, look, every minute you're going to ping and check, has there been any status changes? And most of the time, there won't be. But let's say I was to change the status on Notion to, let's say, done or scheduled. That's not a trigger, but it's still going to run. It's going to run. It's going to say, oh, scheduled. That's not the status I'm looking for. And it just stops. But it's looking every single minute it's running, or it should be running every single minute to check if there's been any status updates. Otherwise, there's no way it's going to catch your status change because at any given point, you're going to change it. And so the only limitation that I found with this is, let's say you have 5 posts ready and you're going to just change the status to context ready. I would not recommend changing them all at once. What's going to happen is either none are going to run or only one is going to run. And so the best way to do it is as you're done checking one post, change the status and then move on to the next post. Work on it and then change the status once you're done. That's just my personal experience. If there's a way to figure that out, let me know in the comments because that's definitely a pain in the butt. And another reason why I switched to Claude Code to generate scripts because it's a lot easier, especially if there's errors, you want to fix them quick. So this filter is just what I explained. It just checks, is it context ready? And this, just looking at the blocks, Notion is different in that it works in blocks. So this is a page. And inside the page, you have content. These are the blocks. Every single section and paragraph could be a block. That's all we're doing here. We're basically saying, hey, look at that record, look inside that page, and I want you to grab everything that's in there. This is why I have these titles here. They matter because that's what the code is looking for. If I don't have that, it might break. This one is straightforward. It's just looking at my hook database. This is looking at my other database, and the same thing for LinkedIn. And this one is just, you know, like I mentioned earlier, this is has requirements. And then here, we're just the number of appends, which is 5 in this case. You can see them here. And we're taking all that data, combining it here with this code. That's pretty much it. I personally like using OpenRouter because it makes it easier when you're working with a lot of different AI models. And so here you can just choose the model and then you're done. Another thing I recommend is this one. It's the prompting framework. This is something that I got from a YouTube video that I saw a while back and it just stuck to me, but it's different things that make a good prompt. A lot of times when I'm working with AI, I just copy and paste this and I'm like, follow this framework and it'll increase the quality of the output. I want to mention that this workflow looks amazing and it feels like it does save me time, but once everything is outputted, it's not done. This is just like step 1. It makes my life easier. It gets me like 60-70% there. After it's done, I still have to open up the post, for example, and I have to review it. I'm not gonna just post this. I will review the post and make any edits that just make sense. Maybe it's not written in my voice. Maybe it says a word that I don't use. Maybe the call to action is off. And so this still requires my manual input, but it's better than starting from scratch and it beats going back and forth with AI every single time. Now, this is a complex workflow. Maybe it is or it isn't, depending on what stage you're on with n8n, but this is not the best way to start. Maybe you're thinking, Chris, what the hell are you saying? Like, this is complex. I don't need all of this. Let me actually show you something that's smaller, which is what I would recommend. If you're just starting off with content because you know it's going to help your business, but don't know where to start, I just say choose the best platform that works for you. So that just depends. If you're a business, probably LinkedIn makes sense. Just keep it simple. Start with one and then do it manually. So for example, that's how I started. I started with just X and YouTube. I really started with a lot of different platforms. I just kept failing and failing, and I'm still testing a lot. But I started with just X and YouTube. And what I would do in X, I was already in it a lot, so it was pretty straightforward. I was like, okay, I just go on the feed every morning, spend an hour, see what people are posting, and try to engage and try to understand how the platform works. What makes a good tweet? Who are the top people in my space? What do people look for? Are people using infographics? What are the formats? Like, you start seeing different patterns and seeing what works. And you'll also find out that just because you're copying what someone else is doing doesn't guarantee that your stuff is going to work. So it's a lot of testing. But the cool part is I actually recommend this, because if you have a system to generate, even just to post 7 pieces of content for LinkedIn, for example, then you can batch this up in one or 2 days, and then you're set for the week. And you just monitor your progress and iterate. Figure out which formats work, figure out which hooks work. Once you nail all that, it's just a matter of storing that into an Airtable and then doing something like the process that I showed you earlier, where you have AI that chooses templates that's already been proven to work for you and takes hooks that have worked for you, and then you're golden. You have a process that you know it's working manually. Then it's just a matter of translating that into an n8n, system instructions that can do that for you in autopilot. And so instead of spending 3 hours a week creating LinkedIn content, maybe you spend 30 to 60 minutes every week, because now AI spits out rough drafts that are 80 to 90% there because you have proven templates. Then you can just start rinsing and repeating into other platforms. I was manually uploading on TikTok, and I did that for like a month. And I saw that sometimes the videos that I would upload on TikTok perform better on TikTok than YouTube. So I was like, it doesn't make sense not to post. I'm just leaving views on the table. And so eventually I was like, why not post on Instagram? But it took me a while. I kept doing it manually, and eventually I started using systems like n8n to auto post for me. When you're at that stage, when you're about to scale with something like n8n, do not post directly from the API, because theoretically you could use something like an HTTP request, and they might even have YouTube in here. With both of these, you can post on n8n for free directly. Now, it sounds cool because it's free. Why wouldn't you, right? And it's already in n8n. It must work. It does work. The problem is your views will get suppressed. That's been my experience. I had a faceless channel. I was getting like 50 views. YouTube wasn't even pushing it. So for whatever reason, they deemed that as spam, and I just wouldn't use that if I were you. If you're going to scale, you can use something like Blotato. I'm not affiliated with them. You can see I'm posting it to 5 different platforms. And my workflow is a little complex, but not complex, but I don't always post to all 5. So it just depends on the conditions I have on my content hub. You just got to test that out for yourself, because I was afraid of that. I was like, what if I start posting? Is my account going to get shadow banned or something? It's not. At the end of the day, if you're not posting spam and you're just following the rules, it's going to work. I want to reiterate, keep things simple. That's how I started with YouTube and X. I was doing it manually for a few weeks, and then eventually I started automating a little bit of it. But painfully, I was doing it manually to understand the process, and then eventually I built a system. I would use Claude to generate my tweets. I would just drag my ideas. I have a template I saw. I'm like, make it this style, but in my voice. I had a document ready that was in my voice, and then I would feed it to Claude every single morning, and then it would generate a tweet, copy and paste it. I'll screenshot the image, use Canva. It would take me like 15 to 20 minutes every day. And then for YouTube, I would just pick a time. I'll try to record sometime a day. It would take me like 30 to 60 minutes to record a short form video that was like 30 to 90 seconds long, or maybe a little more longer at that time. And it's just because I was too busy trying to generate a script. I didn't know where to start. I was just all over the place, which is why it's important you have your system nailed down. I would spend 8 to 10 hours weekly generating content. And I went from that to spending 3 to 4 hours weekly generating. I generate 7 shorts that I post on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And I generate at least 7 LinkedIn posts. That's the power of systems. And it's not perfect. I'm always trying to refine it. As I learn something new, I'm learning which type of content resonates, which content is getting more views, which type of hooks work. The more I'm doing it, the better I'm getting. So the biggest mental shift through all of the systems that I'm building and the pain of just doing the manual process was that I think in ideas, not platforms. So if you start thinking in ideas, you can take that idea and amplify it versus thinking, I got to post in 5 different platforms. Thinking in ideas has helped me create content consistently and post at least 5 times a week for the past 2 months. It hasn't been perfect, but I'm still refining it. I think It's just a matter of testing different things, figuring out which platforms you resonate more. Because at the end of the day, you can pump out content stressed and still get no results, or you can pump out content consistently with systems and slowly get results because you are not stressed that you're not getting results. You're just putting in the work. You're letting the systems handle the bulk of the work. The real win really is that I'm not burning out. I'm creating more content than ever. And I feel like eventually I can scale to more once I refine the systems. The real win is not burning out, and that systems protect your energy. All right, let me wrap this up. The path is simple. Pick one content piece you have already created, ask Claude to repurpose it for one other platform. Do that manually for a week, then automate it with n8n. If anything, if you can hold it off, I do it for a few weeks, refine your system, and then automate it, because you'll have better prompts, you have a better understanding how each platform works, and your automation will just be a lot smoother. If you want more workflows like this, I put together 10 n8n workflows you can steal, the exact systems I use to run my content research and automation. Links in the description, and subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this. I'll see you on the next one.